Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
I am back. Welcome to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Hungee here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. I'm your host, Tyler Fornes, who is back after a couple-week hiatus. And with me, as always, is Fred Moreland, who just likes to laugh out loud. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Oh,
AEW's dying.
AEW is officially dead, and it only cost an average of $185 million over the first 3 years of the deal. And I'm going to take a massive victory lap because I said $200 million for over a year on this podcast. And the way the terms are, it's $180 million in 2025, $185 in 2026, $190 in 2027. But that fourth year is and it's an option year that's significantly higher. And you know what that means, Fred? In the world of football, you spike that last year to make that average annual value look good for the agent, look good for the player.
Sure do.
This is a $200 million deal, baby. And I was right. Victory lap. Joe Lanza style. Joe Lanza size victory lap. Look, this is a massive, massive win for All Elite Wrestling. So let's talk about some of the specifics. I'm just going to list it, and then we're going to give our analysis, all right? WWD does have a 2028 option. I would expect that to be exercised unless AEW craters, because the way the television landscape is going to look in 3 years when they have to choose that to exercise it is going to be significantly different, and it will probably cost way more money to sign a new deal. So that's why that final year is at such a spiked value, in my personal opinion. Rampage will be discontinued. So to me, that means Rampage will turn into Shockwave, which is apparently being shopped to Fox for either Tuesday or Thursday. SmackDown ratings per Dave Meltzer were 33 to 40% higher on Fox than they have been or were previously on USA Network. Pay-per-view will be carried on Max for a price discount from the current $50 one. So,
consumer, to be clear,
the obvious thinking for me is, oh, you're already paying for Max. Here's a $35 pay-per-view. So Max is still technically getting the same amount of money, but they're trying to encourage people to subscribe to the service. That's my lean on it. We don't know those specifics yet. AEW
like ESPN plus UFC setup as well.
Well, that's different. You can order those pay-per-views without ESPN Plus. You get a ton of other shows, UFC shows with ESPN Plus. I
thought you had to have an ESPN Plus membership to purchase the UFC pay-per-views.
Maybe I'm wrong there, but you can still buy it on traditional pay-per-view. So to my understanding, the shows that you get on ESPN Plus that aren't the traditional UFC, like 307, which I think is tomorrow, is you get stuff like Fight for the Fallen. You would like the Dynamite specials are its own show where you get like those fight nights where it's like up and coming undercard guys. Maybe sometimes you'll get a title defense, but that's kind of what you're looking at. You're getting extra real UFC cards. They're just not as high profile. But a couple other details before we really dive into the meat and potatoes of this. AEW won't share advertising revenue with WBD anymore. Not too big of a surprise there, considering what the first TV deal looked like and how they just kept growing and expanding it. And Sports Business Journal says WBD does own a stake in AEW. TK never denied it to Meltzer, has said that he has 100% of voting power. So it sounds like WBD is more of a silent partner, if I'm reading between the lines correctly. Fred, I can't believe Dave Meltzer would spin this all like this and fool us. I can't believe Shad Khan paid WBD $185 million a year just to air AEW.
To explain that real quick, we do have to mention that there's apparently someone trying to cope with this by going on Reddit's legal subforum, I think it was, and asking if this was
conspiracy
it would be
theories.
illegal for Shad Khan. Yeah, it was basically a conspiracy theory. It's just in case you're out of the loop on that. The cope is strong in some people. Oh man. What's really funny is at the exact same time as Variety was updating their reporting that to match the $185 million number that Dave Meltzer said, Eric Bischoff was freaking out that the $185 million number was absolute bullshit created by Meltzer.
Yeah, I think what was extra funny is that the news of the total money broke while Eric Bischoff was saying that it was Meltzer spin. That is the
I have new Eric Bischoff grifting. Some schmuck at Anderson Jim 5651 on Twitter posted a fake quote from Brandon Thurston that claim it's fake, but it says that Dave Meltzer has 3% ownership in AEW. And so Eric Bischoff, the ultimate grifter, retweets it and says, so at Dave Meltzer WN, given the garbage like yours that is so often posted as fact by desperate, insecure people so needing for attention and validation, do you confirm or deny the statement of this post? It's hard to believe, but ... Oh my God.
You know what? I have to give it to Eric Bischoff.
He's a high-level grifter, man.
He won't give up. Like, there is a level of determination to always be wrong like this that you just, you know what? You got to give it to him a little bit. He's a complete negative and wrong for
impressive.
AEW wrestling.
Oh, he sucks.
Oh, he absolutely sucks. But it is really impressive how it doesn't matter.
The hustle is... Look, I got to give him credit for that. I hate the game, not the play-out, right? Or whatever terribly aged phrase that was from our youth.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things. But fortunate for us that we still have something to make fun of, which is, let's be honest, it's always a plus. I think this is phenomenal for AEW.
Yes, absolutely.
And one of the interesting things with this deal is going to be how, like, maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse, but let's say Fox gets Shockwave. Are we going to have it?
Which is the presumption.
Are we going to have issues with Warner Brothers Discovery being mad about certain things going on the Fox broadcast and vice versa? And is Fox going to be annoyed about advertising AEW pay-per-views that are airing on Max, which is not associated with Fox? There were some annoyances with WWE and like Peacock and Fox. That was a real thing. Will it become a real thing? Will Tony Khan and his team have the foresight to talk to them about it and be like, look, at the end of the day, we have to promote our pay-per-views and our pay-per-views are going to be on Max. There's got to be a way we can figure this out. Fox does not have a specific streaming service. So that was something that theoretically should have been fine with Peacock. But the difference with Peacock is it's directly owned by NBC, one of their biggest competitors, because it's broadcast television, where Max is HBO. It's not TV. It's HBO. Like, that's always been their gimmick. So I wonder if the type of streaming service will be promoted is going to make any impact on whether or not, like, there are issues. I just find this all fascinating. And
it's going to be really interesting. Yeah, especially if they get that Fox deal. You are correct that there is probably going to be some strife between Fox and Warner and AEW if they if they do go that route, or I mean, if that deal does end up being made. Update: Brandon Thurston has told Eric Bischoff he never said that, as you would expect. Um, God, it's so stupid. Gotta find an angle. I digress. But yeah, I mean, well, first of all, this makes AEW the most profitable non-WWE wrestling company ever on an annual basis. Just a tremendous amount of money, and they're looking at probably. I'm changed computers, so my all my bookmarks are still on the other one. Is my audio sounding all right, by the way, since I'm bringing that up right now?
No, maybe it's going to sound great for the listener, but every time you talk, it clicks. Like it's.
Oh, that's just TMJ. No, I'm joking.
That was a good bit. That was a really good bit.
Thank you.
Thank you. You need to get a microphone that doesn't suck, as you can tell on our Zoom call. I have a professional in studio microphone.
Yeah, I bought the microphone you told me to buy when I upgraded the Shure.
Oh, you did? Oh, well.
Yeah. Here, I'm going to loudly pick it up. This is great audio. Here, look at this shit right there. This is a visual medium. Slam that around. No one's going to listen to the show ever again, and for good reason. But yeah, I think the estimate that I had last time when I tried to record it, the clicking is probably my mouse going back and forth between stuff, so deal with it. I'm terrible. So yeah, basically it looked like when I put the numbers together, and that was mainly like putting together mostly stuff from Brandon Thurston with a little Meltzer mixed in, that they were looking at an annual profit about $69 million per year. Nice. And so it's looking more like 70, 75. Yeah, that's tremendous for them. Obviously, they're going to up their spending as that goes on, and so that will cut into the profit. That's a thing that they will have to keep in mind. But I mean, that's going to give them much more leverage to, if you're a WWE source, big air quotes here, overspend on top talent. It's big. It's great because it really solidifies them. They are getting in a single year more than they got for the last 4 years combined with the Warner Brother deal. And so this is great. They are reportedly going to be putting all the old TV shows up on Max, so that's good. There was no mention of Dark or Dark Elevation, and I honestly haven't even thought about those shows in a little bit to even check like what the status of those are up on YouTube. I kind of thought they were all taken down, but I should probably confirm that. I'll try to do that without my mouse, so maybe the clicking has stopped.
Fred, the clicking is only when you talk, so I don't know what the deal is.
Okay, now I'm getting weird audio, so I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Good Lord.
We'll just put a disclaimer in for the people. Eric Bischoff has invaded our airwaves and is in our walls.
Oh, we're getting hacked.
Noise.
Solomon Crow! Solomon Crow is after us.
Oh, that's so fucking great, Fred. That's just so good.
Tyler, okay. I'm going to drop out of the call real quick and I'll come right back in. You talk about the deal more.
That sounds great. Look, I just think this deal is so great for AEW. AEW is now the second biggest pro wrestling company of all time. They are. I think that it's inarguable at this point. They're about to pass WCW Nitro for the longest reigning television show other than SmackDown and Raw in pro wrestling history. This is an objectively successful business. They are now going to be bleeding cash. Like AEW is at a point where they are, for lack of a better term, they're great, Fred. They are great. this is
They are.
this is awesome, and it's better for the wrestlers. It's better for television. It's look, we have our faults with AEW, and the show on Wednesday night, the 5th anniversary show, had a lot of issues, but there's still a lot of good. And having AEW in the space of professional wrestling is still objectively great. Now, I wish they would go back to more of the heart of what AEW was, which is we are not WWE, and we are our own thing, and we are just going to present ourselves like our own thing. And I wonder, Fred, if now that Tony Khan has this media deal, if we might start seeing a shift of like, hey, I have the money. Now I can really do whatever I want. And I don't have to worry about serving another master. You know what I mean?
Maybe, but we'll see. I do think that, one thing to consider is that, Warner Brother Discovery has a certain level of pull, and that's not even factoring in people that Tony may have brought in that have very WWE influences. I'll just point at, I think every Mercedes Moné segment feels like a WWE produced segment. But I think that it's also very possible that Warner Brother Discovery has been telling WWE or AEW to do certain things more like WWE, in an attempt to, the other company is doing better numbers right now, so why wouldn't you want to rip them off a little bit? So that's always I could see that being a source of some of this, but I mean, I also think that Tony's softened on how he wanted to produce stuff over the past few years. And so I just think that's just something to consider. I think the biggest impact will be with talent acquisitions. Hopefully they'll use it to improve their production a little bit, because there's still like too many little snafus with things. And honestly, it'd be nice if it upped their PR game some. This was something that I think Meltzer talked about on his last Observer audio. That actually, I think this was Joe Lanza. I listened to them both in the past 24 hours, so they blended together to some extent. But whichever one, I think it was Lanza, said that maybe they should spend some more on PR, because they are really being hurt by all the anti AEW stuff, like Eric Bischoff being a ridiculous human being. And maybe they could fight back on some level if they wanted to, or just do something to try to counter that. I brought this up before, and I'm obviously not asking for anyone. I don't want to try to be a victim of Chris Legental type activity, but it does seem very silly that we're the AEW specific podcast on this network, and we don't even get like emails or anything from AWPR. You'd think that would just be like, we have something very positive, so maybe we can have these schmucks do something about it on their show. I have been told that we have multiple listeners, so I don't know. I mean, it's just weird in general, but yeah, I mean, it's a big day for wrestling, and it's a huge benefit to, I think, the entire industry. It's good for everyone. So, yeah, good stuff. Shockwave sounds like it's very much going to be pitched. It's very much the deal they're trying to work out with Fox, which is not a guarantee at this point. It could still not work out. I guess if it doesn't work out, they could always bring back Rampage, which is not part of this deal. It appears like it will die once this is all settled. And I assume Collision would shift over to being the C show. because as we mentioned, both Dynamite and Shockwave, a hypothetical Fox network, Shockwave would have to be an A show. I doubt Fox, Fox even with S1 would want like a B show coming over.
Here's what I want, Fred. I want Collision to be stuff like Will Ospreay versus the Beast Mordos.
Oh yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great use of it.
That's what you should do. Just make cool ass matches. Yeah, sure, they still matter in AEW canon, but just do cool shit. And then you know what? That's how you can get people organically over. Hey, Beast Mordos. Oh, he had a 4 3/4 star match with Will Ospreay. This guy kind of rocks. And that's how you get people who maybe have not had a lot of introduction to somebody like the Beast Mordos an opportunity, see him. Like, that's what I would do. That's what Rampage always should have been. Like,
or just like,
what was it? Rocky Romero versus Mystico, that one random Friday in Texas.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Do that.
That makes perfect sense to me. But I feel like they've been kind of in an awkward position with their TV shows for a while now, and this is just kind of maybe it'll clarify it and help resolve it. Maybe not. I guess we'll see. But yeah, it's it's very much up in the air now. Going back to the don't try to be WWE thing we were talking about. They are bringing in basically the entire Hurt business. And I am curious to see how this goes, because on the one hand, I feel like this was generally considered a good act that was not handled well by WWE. So this is not a TNA signing and instantly pushing a washed Rob Van Dam, as an example. And that what they're doing is they're bringing in guys that seem like they have some legs left. Now, Shelton Benjamin, I could do without, I guess. I mean, just kind of it's whatever with him. But the I'm curious to see how Lashley goes. I'm not expecting great things with him in ring, but maybe he'll be good enough that it'll work out. MVP, I think, is an instant plus. I think he's a great talker, and it's exciting to have him come in. I've enjoyed both his segments with Nana, and it's but it's going to be very interesting to see. It's hopefully hopefully we'll have good stuff go, and it'll work out for them. But
so I'll say this, because they're getting like Swerve involved and how good Swerve is, and I think Lashley to me is like a grilled chicken breast. It's good, it's consistent, but you need something else to spice it up to make it great. It's kind of what Lashley is. Good in-ring worker, looks impressive as hell, kind of boring. Needs like hot sauce. That's where you add a great talker like MVP. That's where you add a guy like Swerve, who's got all the charisma in the world. Like, I think this could work, and especially because of how WWE mishandled the act, I really think that there's a lot of meat on the bone and directions that they could go to make it not a WWE cosplay, or, hey, we just hired a bunch of ex-WWE guys, which, let's just be real, you did. But it's also kind of okay.
Who else are they largely going to be signing established guys from, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, the NFL, where are they going to sign guys from? Free agency. And like the UFL, they rarely sign guys from the CFL because of how weird the seasons are. But I really don't have an issue with them bringing in ex-WWE guys. It's just kind of the nature of shit. But you should always try to be building up and pushing new stars. I do like that MVP is this phenomenal talker. I think Prince Nana has almost worn out. He's become a tired act with Swerve. So I think that they're like after the Hangman stuff, like going into something like this could be really, really good for them. I'm not even convinced that Nana's going to stay, honestly. But we'll find out that answer in time. I'm going to give this a real chance. Shelton Benjamin, I will always have a soft spot for, Fred. You know why? He went to the University of Minnesota and he's a heavyweight wrestler.
Yes,
so I'll always have a soft spot for him. But this isn't 2004 Shelton Benjamin. I saw
the thing I compare him to coming in is like bringing in Johnny TV / Morrison / etc. Morrison isn't bad. Benjamin isn't bad, but it's just kind of like I don't know what's left for him to do. They're probably not going to be okay doing like a jobber to the star spot, so they're going to have to be like at least mid carders in whatever role they're being used in, and that means that they're going to be losing a lot, and they're probably going to be or winning a lot, I should say. It's opposite pay, I guess. So he's being pushed. They're going to be pushed harder than I think they should be.
Yeah. My big thing with Shelton Benjamin is for the better part of the last, 15 years, he's been off of Major League Television Wrestling. Like he had that stint in New Japan. He's come back to WWE a couple times, but he's never really been mega pushed. He's always just kind of been there. So even though like people like you and I are just like, you know what? Do we really need this? But I know there's this whole monolith of the casual fan, but somebody who just wants to turn on Dynamite and the pay-per-views and doesn't follow wrestling discourse might be it might be good to have a guy like Shelton Benjamin on TV because there's a little bit of a name recognition and they're not burnt out watching him. Where Johnny TV was in every single televised wrestling promotion ever invented. And there have been so many iterations of Johnny where a lot of people are sick of him. And I think it's just a little different in that essence with Benjamin. I don't necessarily know if he'll be any form of plus for AEW, but I don't think he's going to be a negative. And I think that's important.
Yeah, worst case scenario, he'll be all right. I don't think it's going to be a disaster. We're not talking, I don't know. What's just the absolutely bad signing? I guess I'll point to Mel. Poor Mel. It just didn't work out when she came in. I don't think it'll be like that, but I think it'll be more like, hey, here's a segue. Soraya, who just signed a new 3-year deal. She is going to stick around some more with AEW, and I wanted to ask you about this, Tyler, because I think that we're in a situation with her where she's being paid very well, I'm sure. There's no way that she would not be getting a good 6 figures, and not low 6 figures either, to stick around. And obviously she's got talent in a certain way. She talks well, or reasonably well, though I can honestly say that most of her segments aren't that great, in my opinion. And I just don't think she's up to snuff in the ring, at least at a high level, to be a push act. But she's, they continue to use her to that level. And I just think that I don't know. I don't know if I would have made this decision if I was Tony Khan. I might have let her leave the company. Now you could argue that maybe he didn't want to have the PR hit of her exiting, but frankly, I think this would have been a situation where it would have been just fine.
Yeah, I agree. Really, not a whole lot to add to that, Fred.
Okay, cool. She is sticking around. Lots of little news notes this week. First of all, there are 2 concussions on the Ring of Honor taping, and unfortunately, I don't have the name. The first was a like a local jobber, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
Yeah, not Trisha Dora. That's all Collision stuff. Here we go. Ella Elizabeth, I think it was. He was doing a squash loss to Billy Starks, if I recall correctly. There was reports that she had a concussion, and also Sammy Guevara in a match against against Serpentico. Also suffered a concussion. Basically, I know the Guevara story was that he did a flying cutter. I think probably a springboard one he does, and basically Serpentico's head landed on top of Guevara's head, and that led to the concussion. Everyone was very concerned, but apparently Guevara was doing reasonably well back in the trainer's room. So hopefully they all recover okay. Let's see. Speaking of health issues, two other ones of note. Killswitch was found collapsed in his home because of double pneumonia. And what was really scary is that when he went into the hospital, his oxygen levels were below 80%. Now, your normal oxygen saturation should be around 98%, if I recall correctly. So that's a hell of a drop for him. Hopefully he recovers well, but he's not going to be around for a few weeks at a minimum. It's scary stuff. Hopefully he gets healthy soon. And of course, Taz got the old NXT parking lot attack, allegedly before the 5th anniversary Dynamite. But of course, that was just him. He needs total knee replacement, so that's kind of the cover story for that, and why he'll be out for a little bit, and to set up a storyline for Hook. So just working all that stuff smart. Let's see. Tony Storm appeared twice in Stardom in the past week, working on the 28th of September and the 2nd of October. That included her cutting a hell of a promo in a press conference about how she's going to, or how she had an affair with Stan Hansen. And I'll leave it at that. Let's see, Swerve Strickland and EJ Naduka both kind of clapped back at the idea of Swerve being overpaid. Those reports that came out. Mercedes Moné put over the idea of Shane McMahon coming in, which, boy, I hope is not the case. But I will note that at the end of Dynamite this past Wednesday, that they were talking about John Moxley was talking about how he didn't want to do this. Someone else was making him. Does that mean Shane McMahon? I don't know. I hope not. I don't think that'd be beneficial, but that is the story they used.
I think Shane McMahon would be kind of in the same realm as, what do you call it? Like Shelton Benjamin. Like, I think the name recognition would be interesting.
Yeah.
I really don't care to see Shane McMahon on my wrestling television, but there is a segment of fans that, like, I'm trying to look at it from AEW's perspective. He is vastly over and popular within the WWE fan base. Maybe if you bring in Shane McMahon, you can convert some of those to AEW fans. To me, the answer is no. You may convert a few, sure, but I don't think it would be worth nearly enough for the investment.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, if he comes in, I'll give it a chance, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know what he'd really add, to be honest. I mean, I know that he does have name and recognition, but all the same, it's like, what are you going to be able to do with that? Eric Bischoff grifting update. He deleted his. No, he didn't. That's a lie. The initial thing that he tweeted has been deleted, I guess. Jesus. So very dumb. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly hope he doesn't come in. I don't think it'd be beneficial. More me on a match. Tyler with her friend RJ. That will apparently be coming this fall. after their, he and Renee had their initial episode with Eddie Kingston. We'll see how that goes. Insider Gaming, per Meltzer, had a report about AW reconsidering or considering to getting another video game development partner. Fight Forever, according to the article, was over budget and under-delivered. AW does own the rights to the build of Fight Forever, so they could take that with them if they wanted. They could end up continuing their relationship with Ukes, but they apparently were very unhappy with the final product and how the final year of development went. So I guess we'll see on that one. 3 more tidbits. MJF is off filming a role in Happy Gilmore 2. Kota Ibushi and Adam Cole are both supposed to be returning in the near future.
Look at you, Fred, rattling all of that off.
I can read real good.
Hey, you know what? I'm proud of you. That West Virginia education is coming in well for you.
It is.
Still. MJF in Happy Gilmore 2 is interesting. I wonder if he's going to replace like the character of Mr. Larson, where he's just going to be like, you remember Mr. Larson, guy with the nail in his head?
I do not, actually.
Oh, buddy. Oh, you need to watch it. It's good.
It's been a long time since I've seen Happy Gilmore. Oh, that was Richard Keel's character. Okay, yeah. What an awkward silence. All right, so I do want to ask you, coming out of Dynamite, I think one of the biggest issues I think we should talk about is the result of the main event, specifically that Kazuchika Okada's first singles loss in AEW this year. Came not at the hand of someone rising up the card, and he didn't even make it to the C2. It came against Bryan Danielson on with a week's build on the 5th anniversary Dynamite. Do you think that was the right call, Tyler?
No. Like, what? Why? This is something you'd be like, you know what? Danielson says, like, right after All Out, he calls out Okada for not Grand Slam, or even after Grand Slam, calls him up for the anniversary show. To do it on fucking Instagram at 8 o'clock on a Monday night is stupid. This is where I think Tony's too online, because that's not a good way to promote your television show to a real audience. It's good sometimes. You want to have people paying attention to you on all these platforms. Yes. But come on. This is just, I hate it, Fred. I hate it.
I do wonder if this was Bryan Danielson's getting ready to take time off, and right before, like, for a while, and right before that, he wanted to have a match with Okada. That kind of thing. Because frankly, the rest of it doesn't make, like, any other real view on it doesn't make much sense. We had Okada tease matches with Takeshita and with Paige. Now, AEW does like to do the thing where they tease something and then wait like 8 months before they get back to it, right?
Almost like a Dragon Gate kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah. So I wonder if, like, that, that was all according to plan, but they just weren't going to do those right now, but they still intend to in the future. But I still think they kind of booked themselves in a corner by doing this match, because obviously Danielson can't be losing.
Yeah.
Pay-per-view main event, where he's probably going to lose the belt to Moxley, you assume. And Okada, one would argue, should not be losing either, because, you have this guy that's brought in and has been booked as an undefeated guy in singles competition, of course. And beating him at some point would have been a big feather in someone's cap, right? But we end up with a situation where Okada is his first loss in the U.S. in AEW in a singles match is to Bryan Danielson, a guy who in 2 weeks might not be around the company anymore. And it's kind of, it didn't really, I know they did the angle afterwards and all that, but the Okada, they could have done that angle after any Danielson match with anyone. It didn't matter. It could have been any heel. And the idea that it had to be Okada just doesn't make any sense. I recognize it's a big match. Obviously, those two are two of the best ever, and all so on and so forth. But it just felt like a weird time to book that match, and so you got painted into this corner where one of the guys had to win. And frankly, the guy that really, really had to win, given the storyline that if he lost the belt, he's retiring, is Bryan Danielson. So, but they just could have, I mean, not that Hangman Page isn't already a main eventer, but, him or Swerve Strickland or someone else you wanted to elevate off the card, like Daniel Garcia, if you're keeping him around, because they were pushing him very hard. They all, frankly, I think would have made much more sense as a guy that would benefit from getting that first win against Okada that you could have played up really big. But instead, what we got was this match that was kind of thrown together, and the end result is an Okada loss that was immediately overshadowed by the BCC angle afterwards. And I just feel like booking wise, I mean, the match was good. I thought it was a little short, and I didn't like what felt like a very weak distraction finish, very WWE style. To go back to that conversation we were having, I thought that was underwhelming as a finish, but I thought it was like a very good match. I thought it was like 4.25. It felt like we were getting like the majority of, but not the entirety of, a traditional Great Okada match. I don't know. I didn't like the booking. I felt like it turned out that they played themselves and it went against their best interests.
I'm mad, Fred. This booking is horse turds. Absolute horse turds.
Yeah.
You don't book this match. You don't book it at all.
You don't have to. I mean, it wasn't like something. I mean, granted, you have the past history of the two matches between the two, of course, but this wasn't something that you've been building for weeks and weeks. This was very much put together. You could have picked anyone from the back for the Danielson win.
Yeah, it's rough. It also feels like a waste that Okada's first loss is against Bryan Danielson. Like, Forbidden Door doesn't count. That is AEW canon, but he wasn't an AEW contracted wrestler. Yada yada yada. To use his first loss like this against the guy who's about to retire.
Wow. Well, let's put air quotes around retire, and we'll get back to that in the future.
But in canon, that's the storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just sucks ass. Sucks, Fred.
That's not great. Very weird, and I feel like kind of short-sighted.
Yeah. I hate it. I hate it. I'm like speechless at how much I don't like this.
Now, question: did you like that more or less than the finish to Ospreay Ricochet?
I get I don't mind the double pin. I actually thought that was kind of cool, but Takeshita, when he came out, I thought sucked. Now, if they're about to restart the match, that's when Takeshita comes out. That's when he comes out and beats those guys up.
Yeah.
I just thought the timing was off.
Yeah, it felt weird to me. I think it just would have worked a lot better if, like, you motion that you're going to restart the match, and then Takeshita runs in and takes both guys out and ruins it. I think that would have got a lot more of the appropriate heel heat, then again I felt like was a very WWE thing of restarting the match and then immediately having the Takeshita run in. I didn't care for either of those endings, frankly. I understand that you kind of want to protect Dakota. Boy, does AEW love doing finishes that protect guys. Too much, frankly. And I also understand that you're trying to set up a three-way match with Takeshita, Ricochet, and Ospreay. But there's just gotta, I mean, I just think not even allowing the match to restart would have been so much better. And the only difference is that he just runs in, air quotes here, 10 seconds earlier, right? So I don't know. Now I did see some criticism of, well, why was Takeshita not on the plane? That segment I thought was actually reasonable because the idea was, to me, that Don Callis is trying to be a manipulator and trying to separate Kyle Fletcher from Ospreay, but he doesn't want to be obvious about it. So what he's doing is he's getting Kyle Fletcher on the plane with him so that, one, he's not there to try to stop Takeshita's attack. So there's no strife there. And two, he can say, I had no idea, Kyle, that this was going to happen. I was sitting right next to you, so I'll just have to talk with Konosuke. And it's obvious that the storyline is entirely the Kyle aspect is entirely about Don Callis dragging him along, and the question is Kyle going to be won over to aligning with Callis, or is he going to stick with Ospreay? So I thought that part made sense, but when Takeshita ran in, I can't justify that. That just kind of like, why would you not just attack Ospreay during the match, rather than just wait and even wait for a restart, after a double pin, because there's no guarantee that was going to happen, of course. So I thought that didn't make too much sense.
Didn't make much sense at all, man. That's where this company has been so frustrating. Their finishes suck lately, and it's almost like, and you know what? I remember watching the entire Monday Night War documentary, and I remember Eric Bischoff specifically talking about how difficult finishes are. And I think he had a point. It is hard to book finishes consistently, and I think AEW is in a little bit of a struggle right now with their finishes.
I think this is something that's been going on for over a year, longer. Yeah, frankly, and because like early on, you had things like the time limit draw with Darby and Cody being a big part of Darby going up the card, establishing him as a future star at the time. You had no DQs until Pac got the first one in that Iron Man match he had with Kenny Omega, which made perfect sense and was a great payoff to the little story they've been telling, that there were no DQs in AEW. Not that they wouldn't call them, but that they didn't want to, so the refs gave a little extra leeway, and the competitors didn't do that. They didn't cross the line. So that gave that a little extra heat, I thought. I thought that was really good booking. I mean, the Takeshita finish, I thought was just, especially that one, was just an example of it's an obvious change that you could have easily improved with. The Okada one, I thought, was just an example of you booked yourself into a corner, and it's an example of wanting to do the match and not wanting to do a finish. And that was a hallmark of the circa 2015 bad WWE booking that pissed off a lot of people and helped put them at like their low point of their popularity going back to before the Attitude Era, more or less, I think. And I just thought it was nonsense. It was a complete, like, it was a situation that AEW itself created. And I thought it was a cheap way to try to get out of it. The rest of the show, I mean, I thought Osprey Ricochet was good, really good. I think I gave that one 4.25 as well. But I thought that the finish hurt it significantly. I also thought the double pin looked really bad. It was not the only double pins I think really look good are like the German suplex where both guys are shoulders and down, and I guess similar moves, but the German is the one I always think of. And secondarily, the small package double pin where both guys are rolled up, and I think that one's very hard to do. Bret Hart, I seem to recall being pretty good at pulling it off. But I think more or less any situation where it's just like a guy's got an arm on the other guy and you count that as a pin, it just looks very dumb. And I thought that the way they did it in this match did not look good. Otherwise, on this 5th anniversary show, I thought I didn't think anything was really blow away stuff. I thought that the learning tree segment with Mark Briscoe setting up a Jericho Briscoe match was pretty good. I thought Jericho did a good job of cutting a heel promo and also having a very funny jab at people saying that AEW is going to die instantly. He congratulated the fans for 5 years of Dynamite, to quote the Figure 4 Online review, and also mentioned the new TV deal, saying, "Boy, we made a bunch of so-called experts look really stupid," which was a very funny Jericho leaving character for exactly 5 seconds moment. There was a Hangman Page Juice Robinson match, which was kind of a wild brawl, but frankly, I thought it was kind of underwhelming and meandering. It was a disappointment, but we got Jay White coming in as a babyface for what I think is maybe Jay White turn number 3 in his time in AEW, which is wild. I think that match will be good. The weird usage of Jay White kind of continues. We had a week set up for Jack Perry against Katsuyori Shibata for the TNT title at Wrestle Dream. Britt Baker, Serena Deeb was okay. It was solid. I didn't think it was great, but it was solid. Baker got a good reaction in front of the
honestly, that sounds like a Britt Baker Serena Deeb match. It was just okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it didn't exceed expectations at all. It wasn't an ugly mess or anything, so that was fine. They teased that Christian was behind the attack on Taz, and before that, they had Taz cut a emotional promo about how he was going to take care of whoever did that. We had a very give the Divas a chance era Mariah May Willow Nightingale segment where they just kind of pushed each other and did that kind of like it wasn't a brawl, it was the hair pulling kind of thing, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Private Party squashed Iron Savages, which whatever. That set up the Young Bucks teasing a match and then attacking them with the help of Jack Perry. So they're going to have a 6-man on Rampage. I have been complimentary to Private Party since their return. I think they've looked pretty good, especially Zay. And he's a great seller. We'll see how this match goes. I don't know if they're like. I don't feel like they're warmed up enough for a tag title match, frankly. But we'll see. And then we had an MVP Nana segment that introduced Shelton Benjamin, who I didn't recognize at first, just because I haven't thought about Shelton Benjamin in forever. And next week we've got the Title Tuesday Dynamite, where there's a non-title match. Kind of undercutting their own gimmick of Danielson and Yuta against Claudio and Moxley. And frankly, if they don't have Yuta, just like the old cage match where the Horseman turned on Sting.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like Ole Anderson was like, they kicked me out of the Horseman, Sting. I know you don't trust me, but I hate these bastards and I want to get them. And then they immediately, it's going to be him against I think Flair and Anderson. Arn Anderson. I'm not sure. I think that was it. And as soon as the match starts and it's a cage match, they lock the door, they're all in there, and Oli immediately attacks Sting and just turns on him. And if Yuta doesn't do that, then I'm not sure what they're doing. But I mean, the rest of it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great by any level. It wasn't, I don't think, what you would want from a big anniversary show like this. It was like a 7 to 8 out of 10 show, so it's nothing to complain about. I thought it had two very good matches with disappointing finishes, so it's hard to have really a bad show with that. And I don't think any segments were so bad that it was noteworthy. But yeah, I think that I think it underperformed, but was also good enough at the same time, if that makes any sense. I feel like Wrestle Dream's kind of a cold card, though.
Yeah, but it's also an AEW pay-per-view. It doesn't matter if it's a cold card. I think it'll click. Yeah. Here's my question for you. What did you think of the overrun that we had? It wasn't really an overrun. It felt like they just gave them an extra like half hour. Like, that's not an overrun. That's an extra half hour of television.
Yeah. I have heard people, and again, this is another case of me listening to Rich and Joe and Meltzer so close together. I heard one of them suggest that it might have been like a dry run for a 3-hour Dynamite. I hope they don't do that. I think they'd handle it better than WWE, but I think we know that a 3-hour show is inferior to a 2-hour show at baseline. I just hope they don't go that route. If they do, then I'm definitely going to be watching more on DVR than I already do. And like, look, I'm not going to pull the thing where I'm like, oh, I have to talk about wrestling, and that means I have to watch wrestling. Yuck. I'm not trying to do that. What I am trying to say is I think that there's a very real chance of them overtaxing their audience. And I think that's a concern that I hope that they consider. We'll see. It's a situation where, I think that it's going to be hard to turn down the money that comes with it. Now, they did not, in their announcement, say anything about a third hour to Dynamite, but they are getting rid of Rampage, so maybe Turner still wants that hour. That would change all the WrestleNomics just did an analysis of the per hour cost of this deal and was like it's far closer to what Raw's getting than what the CW is paying for NXT. I hope they don't do it. This may have just been a flex. May have just been hey, it's our 5th anniversary. We just signed a new TV deal, so we're going to do Danielson and Okada with a half hour of extra time. Deal with it. So, yeah, I don't know.
Dude, this company is just it's a big ball of what the hell. Because you have so much that's really, really good. You have so much that's bad. And you have so much that's like, man, this is all right, but it could be so much better if they just did this instead. I'm really glad they got the TV deal, and I hope now that they have the TV deal, Tony Khan goes back to what made him an AEW such a great watch. Just be a great wrestling product.
Yeah. It's, the thing that's put on the back is some weird booking decisions. I think that they have a lot of stars. You can debate if they're actually stars given their low drawing and attendances, but they have guys with name value. Let's put it like that if you want to be persnickety about it. But they do the storylines are the weakest part right now, and it's not that I swear to God, if I never see another person say AEW doesn't tell stories, it'll be too soon. They obviously tell stories. It's just that I think that they're going about it the wrong way most of the time, and it doesn't turn into good stories. The matches, their quality is not really in question. I think this Wrestle Dream card is a little on the soft side, but we'll talk about that next week for the heat check. But yeah, it's very frustrating, especially I still the Takeshita one really sticks in my craw because that's if you're going to go that route, the way to do it, I feel like it's so obvious that you should have just done it right. But instead, we get this. Okay, cool. You know, you just made it harder on yourselves. I don't know, man.
You don't have to make it harder on yourselves. Make it easy on yourself. Just book good wrestling.
That's the idea of wrestling booking is you're supposed to, everyone goes goo goo gaga over the Paul Heyman accentuate the positives thing, like he said back in the 90s. Like it's the greatest thought anyone's ever had. It's the most basic thing about wrestling booking. You're not going to you don't want to push Isaiah Cassidy to have to be on offense for the majority of like a wild brawl. That's not his strength. It's taking a guy, recognizing his strengths and weaknesses, and showing way more of the strengths. When I was, I still like Eric Rowan a lot, way more than most people. But when I was pushing for him to be like, AEW's 911, the ECW wrestler, not the terrorist attack. I was calling for him to use his size and to focus on that and avoid putting him in matches. I don't know, man. It's some of the decisions being made right now just don't make much sense, and I feel like it's lazy in a way, but it's also very accurate in a different way to point out that AW went from being a company that was like, we don't need writers, to having a room of like 20 some people giving input on shows in what sounds like a writer's room to me. Why overcomplicate it? You get to a point where there's too many chefs and you start struggling. I feel like we're at a point where there's so many voices that the idea that, well, you have 20 people, that would obviously filter out like silly ideas. It's not. It's a case of where there's so many ideas that the filtering isn't happening. And I worry that that's what's going on with AEW right now.
This company just keeps getting in their own way. But now that they have the TV deal, hopefully we can see some changes.
Yeah.
Fred, anything else before we get out of here today?
If you listen to the last episode I did as a solo show and the audio is weird, sorry. I'm not good at computer. I'm not sure what happened there. The audio file sounded fine on my side. I did see that I had a small waveform when I was recording, but then I opened it in the VLC player here on my computer, and I was like, oh, it's okay. It's normal volume, so I don't know. So apologies for that, and apologies for last week. We would have liked to have done a Grand Slam wrap-up show, but I basically we're going to do it on Friday. That was the day that the hurricane was heading up through Appalachia, and I was fortunate that my neck of the woods was not affected really beyond some rainstorms and flickering internet and power, but it was flickering enough where we couldn't record. And then the weekend came, and Tyler's a football sicko, so he was
not just a sicko. It is my job.
A professional sicko.
I know.
So I apologize for that. If you are in the Asheville or just the general area affected by this, but Asheville in particular is so bad right now. I hope you all are doing well. I hope everyone's safe and sound. If you are hearing this, please consider donating to a good relief agency that is doing work in the areas affected, whether that be the Red Cross or a more regional group. I know that Eastern Carolina or East Carolina University, not Eastern, has a good page on their website. If you search for, I forget what the exact Google was I used, but I used like Asheville Hurricane Relief search or something along those lines. So that has some good resources. I mean, that's just a complete mess. So I feel so bad for that area, and I hope that they're able to get the help they need rapidly. I do know that their 3 water plants are all shut down right now, so they do not have access to their own drinking water. And two of the plants were like up on a mountain, and both the main and the backup pipe systems failed. So it's a terrible situation. Vikings, good at football. Tyler, you want to talk about that for a second?
My goodness, the Vikings are good at football. I thought 7-8 wins. If there's a 100th percentile outcome, we're kind of seeing it right now. 4-0 in the hardest part of their schedule. If they beat the Jets, it'll be 5-0. The hardest part of their schedule is weeks 2 through 5. And winning all 4 of those games would be spectacular. I would love it. Man, the Vikings haven't gotten shit in pretty much my entire life. We've made multiple NFC championship games. They've all been disastrous in one way or the other. 2000 was 41 donut. 2017 was 38-7. And then 2 close games decided by a field goal, 1998 30-27, and then 2009 31-28. Just I need something, man. Give me happiness, please. That's what I want.
Give you some happiness. I am proud to say that Coach Always B. Cruden won his first national championship with Boston College in college football 25.
Boy.
And I am off to a hot start with the next season already with my number 1 recruiting class and the previous year's number 2 class. So,
dude, I don't know what it is. I am bad at recruiting. I get like a few high-end recruits, but I've never finished higher than like 18th in recruiting class with Texas State. And look, Texas State is one of 2 natties made 4 playoffs in 5 years. It's not like I haven't turned the program around into a juggernaut.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just bad at it.
I could give you tips off air. I could easily also turn this into a college football 25 recruiting tutorial, but we'll talk about it at another time. But yeah, anything you want to plug before we finish this up?
The Real Forno Show, Vikings First and Skull. Go listen.
Well, that's it for us this week. If you want to email us, you can do so. Hungee, HUNGEEPOD. That's HungeePod at gmail.com. We also have a channel on the Voices of Wrestling Discord server, which you can go to and join and tell us how dumb we are. I'm updating my weekly, my top 100 wrestlers of the year on a weekly basis as I try to watch something that's not Dragon Gate, New Japan, or AEW. So I'm trying to
watch Navy versus Air Force, 12 Eastern on CBS. That's real football.
I cannot sign off on that. But that's it. We're done this week. So everyone have a good one and take care. We'll talk to you next week for the
Just know Fred was the one who besmirched real football, not me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the #1 show all about the world of Joshi Pro Wrestling. Episodes drop every other Monday where we discuss the biggest Joshi news, review shows, and preview the hottest upcoming Joshi action.
So whether you're a new fan or an old fan, we've got something here for you at Jumping Bomb Audio.
Check us out on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.